Pinsky, and I've got some great guests here today. And I want to say that we just heard the news that President Trump has announced that he's going to be arrested on Tuesday, whatever that means. You might see this on a rerun because it's not live, but we'll do another show on the arrest if it happens. So we don't know, innocent until proven guilty. That's sarcasm. But anyway, these are my guests today, and they're wonderful, wonderful guests. I'm privileged to be here. To my far left is Attorney Frank Cirillo, Jr., who's been practicing law for a long time now, sorry to say that, and whose father's been practicing law even longer, and everybody knows his father, of the firm of Moss, and Cirillo. And I'm going to give the floor over to Frank now.
Okay, so I would like to now take the opportunity to introduce our newest associate. This is Taylor Criscolo. She started at our office, about 9 months ago now. She was recently admitted into Connecticut. She went to law school in Rhode Island. She's been doing a lot of the criminal defense work in our office recently, and some of the civil stuff. So I'll turn over to her just to give a brief synopsis of her, who she is, and.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure working with Frank and his dad as well, Frank Sr. I've been with them, like you said, probably since June of last year. I was recently admitted into Connecticut. I am also barred in Massachusetts at the moment and pending Rhode Island. It's been quite an experience, especially in what's predominantly a male role. As an attorney, I see more and more women joining this profession, and I'm happy to be one of them. It's been quite an experience. I've been given a lot of opportunities to practice, not only in the office, which a lot of young attorneys start off in the office. I feel that I'm getting a lot of court experience, especially this early on. It's only been about 3 months that I've been barred in Connecticut, so it's been short-lived, but I've had tons of cases and tons of clients that I really connect with, and I do see why this profession is really just great. I love being a lawyer, and I love working.
Yeah, helping people. That's the end of the day. That's what it's about. And today, I think what Attorney Pinsky wanted to discuss is bad faith in negotiation. That is to say, the bad ways insurance companies might treat you and how you can potentially get money from them because of that.
Check this out. I was dying to prepare for this, and whenever you have a show, you think, why, I better know a lot of stuff that I don't know now. But the first thing I did was I went back to my roots, which was way before I was a lawyer. I used to read Consumer Reports, which is a really good newspaper, article, magazine. So I Googled it, and I paid their subscription, and I found out the worst insurance companies for car cases. This is what they say, and they know more than me. And I know most lawyers agree with this, by the way. The worst insurance companies are Allstate, Liberty Mutual, and Liberty Mutual includes Safeco because they're the same company now. So when you get a case against Safeco or Liberty Mutual, even if it's a good case, you just have to realize that they're considered the worst companies. So obviously the point is just be aware of that. Buy your own subscription, I was going to say prescription, to Consumer Reports so that you can find the list of the better companies and you can get the better companies, and that way you'll save pressure when you need the money. It might be there instead of hearing a lot of BULLSPIT. And I'm sorry if I went off subject a little bit, but we're talking about insurance. Now, Connecticut has a law. Let me digress again. This is very upsetting because I'm going to ruin the tempo a little bit. I want to say something. Taylor, as they mentioned, is licensed in Massachusetts and in Rhode Island. So if anybody has a case from those places, I think I know it's legal for me to say, how can they reach you? Can they just Google Taylor Criscolo?
Yeah, so right now I have a LinkedIn profile, so LinkedIn is always a good way to know where a person is barred, but it also is on the website. So if you go to any state's website, you could look up what attorneys are barred there, and it'll by just a simple search of the name.
Can they find you under Moss, and Cirillo if they go there?
So right now, our website is not up to date. However, her telephone number is 203-787-3558. So if you have anything in Massachusetts or Rhode Island, give her a call.
Even if you have a good news story, I always say, look, if you have a good news story, call me. All right, and let me know about it, because I'll cover it if I like it. And if I won't cover it, I'll give it to another reporter who will. And Frank, what's your law firm's number?
203-787-3558. And just to clarify, although it says Moss and Cirillo out front, we're technically now the Cirillo law firm. So I don't want to, say something that's wrong on camera. We do need to get a new sign. So if anyone out there watching owns a signing, making business, I need one of those. I'm in the market. So 203-787, yeah.
Okay, so now in Connecticut and some other states, we have a real powerful law called the Connecticut Unfair Trade Practices Act. But that doesn't cover insurance specifically. There's another law called the Connecticut Unfair Insurance Practices Act, CUIPA. There's CUPA and there's CUIPA. Those are acronyms. So the law that we're going to discuss today has to do with when insurance companies do unfair things to citizens. Now, for years I've been teaching this in terms of what happens when somebody's in a collision. The first thing they do is they call a lawyer. They shouldn't call the insurance company, because the insurance company, once they start talking, has all these questions that they've developed over centuries that are designed to get confusing answers, and the people later get destroyed because of the things they said in the first conversation. You may think I'm kidding. I'm not kidding. It's really serious, because they're amateurs against pros. So anyway, even lawyers make mistakes when they don't do personal injury. They don't know what not to say, and they don't know the inflections that are being passed on. Frank, can you carry it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to piggyback off of what you just said about talking to an insurance company by yourself. Never a good idea to talk to an insurance company on your own. You always want to have counsel give you advice, if nothing else, first. Doesn't mean you might not need to hire a lawyer, right? If it's property damage only, let's say your car gets struck when it's parked in the street, you still want to talk to a lawyer before you talk to the insurance company, because there's ways that they could trick you, and they're looking to not pay. That's their goal, is to not pay you. And and our goal is to make sure that you do get paid. And that's a big part of bad faith, right?
Oh, yeah.
So bad faith, what that is when they basically, the simple synopsis is they just don't treat you fairly when they're negotiating a settlement of a case. And now the law is sort of complicated in this area, but in broad strokes, the test is, could the insurance company have settled within the insurance policy limits, and should they have settled within the insurance policy limits? And so the first prong is always going to be met, because a lawyer's usually going to make a demand that's within the insurance policy limits, because it just makes sense, because they're not going to pay more than what their limits are. The tougher part is, should they have settled within the policy limits? So if you feel that an insurance company is treating you unfairly and making you a lowball offer, and you already have an attorney, you might want to inquire as to including a count of bad faith against them. Now, the benefit of bad faith in negotiation is you could get more money from the insurance company, right? So if it's determined that they were acting in bad faith, they have to cover any overage you get at trial. So in Connecticut, the minimum insurance coverage is $25,000 per person, $50,000 per occurrence. So that means the most in any accident any individual can receive is $25,000. The most everyone involved in the accident can receive is $50,000. So just for easy math, say you're in a car with it's you and 4 passengers. The most you could get is $50,000. So if they don't tender the policy in a situation like that, you might want to have your attorney file a bad faith claim against them. If nothing else, it puts pressure on the insurance company to settle the case and get it done quicker.
A lot of people get homeless waiting for those checks to come in. Believe me, it takes a long time. There's some really nice people who lost their apartments, who lost their houses, who lost their rents, who lost their trailer homes because they had nowhere to live. And as you know, they just evicted a bunch of people from living in Tent City nearby. So it's all serious. I'm sorry to interrupt. I apologize.
No, and then the other thing too that I've noticed recently with insurance companies is with property damage, they have been playing games with that in a way that I never experienced pre-COVID. But the new thing that I've seen, I know I'm loath to call it a scam because I'm not sure that it is they're trying to total out a lot of these vehicles that seem to be not total loss, accidents, right? So, generally, if the car costs more than, if it's going to cost more than 75% of the value of the vehicle to fix it, it's a total loss. If it costs less than 75% of the value of the vehicle to fix, it's not a total loss. And there's been a lot of games played I've seen recently where they're trying to total vehicles that are not total losses. Now, why is this very important to the average person? Well, because let's say you buy a car today for $20,000. The second you drive off the lot, it's worth a lot less. And if you have it for a number of years, let's say you drive a car for 10 years, it could be worth $5,000. Now, if the insurance company says your car is a total loss and the car's worth $5,000, then you're going to get $5,000. How are you going to get into a new vehicle, right? I mean, that's the tough part because they're only obligated to pay the fair market value of the vehicle on the date of loss. And so it's very important that you get your own estimate if it's a close call. If it's a close call, you want to get an estimate that's not an insurance company estimate. You want to go to a private person that is going to give you a real figure, and then, at least you have some evidence to go to, the insurance company and say, hey, this is not total loss. What are you talking about? I got a guy that's going to do it for this price. And I'm sort of skipping over something important. If you elect to keep the car, even after they deem it a total loss, you can't drive it anymore, right? So they give you something called salvage title. It means you can't register it and you can't insure it. So if you're driving it, you're driving it illegally. And in order to get the car current, right, you have to get it, it has to pass a series of tests up in Wethersfield, I believe, that I've been told, I'm not a mechanic, very onerous, very expensive, and not worth the headache. So the long and the short of it is, if you got a property damage issue, and even if it's not related to a personal injury case, contact an attorney if they're telling you that it's a total loss, because we point you in the right direction, at least tell you what to do. I know I wouldn't charge somebody that called on those facts, and I think most lawyers would.
He's very generous with his time. It's his nature.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, if you're being wronged and you're already out money, I don't think it's right to take money from people, like that.
Yeah. I have a little something to say off of what you're actually saying is, a lot of people I do think hesitate to even want to seek legal advice or legal help. And they say, maybe you're not hurt in an accident and that's why you don't want to seek help. But there are lawyers to give you advice even if you don't want to go that route, because time and time again, I've actually seen it happen with a friend of mine where, they undervalue her car. They say they're going to give her a certain amount. A part ends up being more expensive and they don't want to pay what the actual property damage is to her vehicle when, she didn't want to go necessarily the route of, she's not hurt, but we could still give advice in terms of, what your vehicle should be valued at. In that sense, because like he had said, property damage has become a bigger issue nowadays.
Yes, and the other thing too to remember is most lawyers, it doesn't cause you to call give them a call. And if they're not the right man for the job or woman for the job, they will point you in the right direction. So call an attorney if you have a question, is the long and short of it. And especially when dealing with insurance companies in general, because they fight you on everything. It doesn't matter what, if it's a car accident, if it's a fire at your house, flood, everything's a fight with an insurance company. So it's always good advice to contact an attorney anytime insurance is involved. Can you think of any other product that you purchase where you need a lawyer to use it?
No.
Well, you really I was thinking,
Look at all the people who buy those insurance companies without looking at Consumer Reports.
Yeah.
They get themselves protection for their families, and they're getting protection from the worst company on the list of 40 companies. And they're the biggest companies around, those ones that got the worst ratings. Or is that my imagination?
I believe they are. I'm
They're
not as
damn close
familiar
to the
with
biggest.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a good point.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. Can you think of any other product that you purchase that in order to actually use it, you have to hire an attorney? Or really?
Oh, one more thing. Now that you mentioned it, the way you described this whole situation, and you're sort of new, and isn't it amazing how devious and how many traps there are?
Oh, absolutely.
And
I see it more and more every day,
it's
literally.
and the public thinks you just say something and you get a big check for $15,000 or something, and they come into me all the time. Well, we're going to win this case big. I say, well, you already screwed it up here and here, but don't worry, we'll fix it if we can. But it's really amazing the complications that you run into. Keeps coming back to this. Anything you say or do can and will be used against you in a court of law. We all learned that in first grade, and it's true. Just don't go talking, because you just ruin yourself for later. I'll shut up now. Anyway, go ahead.
That made me laugh and lose my train of thought.
I mean, even off that train of thought, that's why, especially when insurance companies want to take statements, it's not that we don't want to give them a statement. We just don't want a client necessarily going out and giving a statement when they don't know how to act on that, especially when they try to put them into almost a whole of what they want them to say rather than what they want to say themselves.
It's like a sheep in a lion's den.
Exactly.
Goodbye.
They're trained interrogators, the people that are calling you. They know the questions to ask, and they know the roads to lead you down. And if you've never been through the process before, you don't know how to answer. And a lot of times, I've found people that give statements prior to coming in. They don't mention their injuries or all of their injuries to the insurance company. And now all that a jury's going to see is just a transcript, right? Like, they're not going to play the audio for them or anything, and it's going to say, yeah, my neck hurts. And then it turns out the next day they have low back problems. Well, isn't it true that you said on the day of the accident only your neck hurt?
Or headaches.
Headaches,
The tension and the muscles all twist.
A lot of injuries come after the fact. A lot of people, these insurance companies like to think, okay, you said you had, like he mentioned, a neck injury on the day of the accident, but how many times do people a week later feel back pain? And I mean, that becomes very important and sometimes the biggest part of their case.
Right. Yeah, and especially you got to remember when you're involved in an accident, the adrenaline's going. You're not going to feel it, right away necessarily. So again, the long and the short of it, call an attorney before you call the insurance carrier, whatever attorney that is.
Yeah, I'm sure there's loads of attorneys in every town, everywhere, and call them, and if they're free, a lot of them will talk for free. That's been my experience. Like I told you, I worked in his father's firm 40 years ago, and next door with the Jacobs firm, and they used to talk for free. And next door to that was Peter Treffers, and he wouldn't charge you to take a call. So it doesn't hurt to ask.
Yeah, the only lawyers generally that charge for a consult are family attorneys, in my experience at least. For a consult. So you always have a free resource, at least for general advice. Doesn't hurt to call. Does not hurt to call. So in terms of bad faith in and of itself, I guess let's talk about how do you handle it when you filed suit you filing off for compromise.
Well, I'll tell you, it depends. It's really a case-by-case
Yeah.
basis. Some clients don't want to get involved at all in that stuff. Some clients want to sue them for everything and own the city of Hartford because that's the insurance capital. But for some of the examples that you talk about, I tell them, look, my lady can't get her kid to school. She can't get to work. She's going to lose her job. We're going to end up suing you for more money for car rentals because you're not paying it. And when we sue you, we're going to sue you for her loss of her apartment because she couldn't pay her rent. So you're taking a $15,000 case, you're turning it into a $2 million case. So just pay her the money now before things get real bad. And sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. Depends on the adjuster we're dealing with too. Some of these people have a heart. And you can say, listen, you got to have a heart with this person. Look what's happening. You want pictures? And that's important too. So you play it case by case. Some insurance companies are so tough though, and so resilient that you know from day one that you're going to have a struggle the whole way through. And some don't call back. How about that? You call your insurance company and they don't even call you back. Now that sucks. Can I use that word? Yeah, that sucks. Anyway, so there's always different, but there's an option called a class action. And class actions are things where you sue on behalf of everybody who's been treated badly in a certain way. They sound like they would make perfect sense and it would be simple, but it's extremely super complicated and it takes a lot of paperwork. But if you have enough people being cheated the same way, then sometimes you can file one case and the court will make special rules where every person gets put into a different class unless it fits perfectly. That's an interesting question. There's no one short definition of it all, but there's some lawyers who do that a lot. I haven't done too much of it, and I'm trying not to start now, but if you called me with the right case, I would refer it to the right person and see what they could do. It's a very complicated situation. People get ripped off like sometimes there's a fake school. These schools go broke, and 1,000 students no longer have the money they paid for tuition. Plus, they can't get their transcripts. So you can sue them for the whole class of students. And then with insurance companies, sometimes they claim to be giving you insurance that doesn't exist. Oh, one more thing we didn't forget to mention, we just didn't get to it. All right, one more thing we didn't mention yet is hidden insurance. A lot of times on a car case where there's a certain amount of insurance policies, there's actually more. But the other side didn't tell us about that. And they represented that there was one policy for $25,000 when there was really another policy for $75,000 more. Sometimes in cases where there's umbrella policies, they tell you there's $1 million in insurance and there's actually $2 million. I've said this before, I'm not sure if I've said it today or before, but it's interesting when all of a sudden you discover, hey, I just found more insurance. So the public doesn't know that there's more insurance, not less. And that's another reason why you got to get an expert to look at it and put them under oath and get it in writing that there is no more insurance. It's tricky. How do you handle it?
So actually, before I forget, I wanted to go back to something that because you were talking about people getting cheated out of, property damage, they're losing wages because of that, all that stuff. What the public may not know is lawyers are not allowed to advance money to their clients because, they just don't know that. I mean, you'd have to be a lawyer to know that. And I get a lot of people that get mad at me and end up leaving my office because they say, I'm sorry, I can't help you out. There's nothing I can do, legally. So don't get mad at your lawyer if he says he can't loan you money and you're in this situation. We're fighting for you. It's just, we'll get in trouble, so.
There were these cash companies that loaned money, remember, for years, and just like a year ago, they stopped in Connecticut.
Well, there's a case pending right now to determine the legality of it, essentially.
Well, a lot of people also, too, with COVID being, a huge part of shutting down the courts, a lot of insurance companies do not settle, and a lot of these suits have to be filed. And now your case is on a docket waiting for trial, and it becomes a couple of years of a process. You know, it's not a quick turnaround anymore. And it goes with that frustration of what you're saying is people don't have the money and they're looking for this money, and we can't give these cash advances, and these loan companies are no longer, you know, handing out these loans as frequently as they used to. And it's becoming an issue of frustrated clients. And, you know, we do the best we could, but by being lawyers and following the law, we really have to, you know, try to explain that to clients because it's difficult, and we understand the frustration.
Yeah. And, you know, the other thing too, and it's gotten worse during COVID, the courts are so backed up right now. It's taken forever to get a trial date. You know, the last case I tried was from 2018 was when the incident occurred. So that's how far backed up it is right now in New Haven. I heard that there are 44 vacancies for judges in the state of Connecticut right now. So anyone looking to be a judge, now's a good time to apply because we need bodies to hear cases. You know, but yeah, it's a lousy situation when you have to wait 5 years before you see a dime on a case, and potentially you can't work during that time period. You know, there's a lot of issues that come up that
things build up, just like we had mentioned before. You know, if your car ends up being totaled out, then you no longer have a car. You're maybe left with that $5,000. You now can't even afford a new car, and this money that you're going to maybe see later on is nowhere near your view. It's just not in sight anymore. It's kind of years out, and you have to know that. And at that point, people also move. They go different places, and they have to start coming back for these depositions, these trials that are scheduled. And it is an inconvenience, but and then it gets canceled half the time because of these vacancies that are in the courts.
Yeah, I mean, I was supposed to be on trial last Tuesday, and they didn't have enough judges to hear the case.
And what I don't think a lot of even clients see, the perspective from a lawyer, is we have to prepare these cases. We are constantly preparing the same case over and over again because each time, you know, we think it's going to trial. We can't really even figure out a scheduling system on our end that works.
How about the right to a speedy trial for criminal but not civil?
Yeah.
You see that a lot, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's kind of a complicated situation because there really isn't enough people to hear these cases, but you need these cases heard in the end.
One great person told me that we've got people in jail who are innocent and that happens especially before trial. They're in jail because they're innocent and they can't make the bond, so they can't get out. And these people are sitting there forever because there's no trials, even though they have a right to a speedy trial, and we can't get them out. It's horrible. On the other hand, we got people outside who are guilty because they made their bond, and they're causing havoc. And we can't give them a trial and lock them up because we don't have the time. So it's a problem. So I guess what we need is you people out there better volunteer to be judges. All right, 40, 45 of you get over there and just sign up and that way there'll still be problems if we do that. Believe me, it's not easy. Being a judge is really amazing because they're much smarter than the public knows. The public doesn't even get to see how intelligent they are or how learned they are in those areas. But after being a lawyer for 10 or 20 years and being a skeptic, which I am by nature, I began to learn that these guys and women know a lot. And I appreciate the fact that without them, we'd be in even bigger trouble. But go ahead.
Do you need to be a lawyer in Connecticut to be a judge?
I don't know if the law demands it, but I don't know any judge in Connecticut. I don't know of any that is not a lawyer.
I think that
and I like that rule.
It's the same rule of you don't have to go to law school to necessarily be a lawyer, but we all do it.
Well, yeah, because how do you
unless
learn
you're Kim
it?
Kardashian.
Did she go to law school? She said she went. Oh, she went.
No,
out.
she just took the bar.
She just took the bar.
She just took the bar and passed.
That used to be called clerking. They used to do that in Vermont.
There's one other state that allows it. There's it's one of the ones out west. California allows it. because that's where Kim Kardashian took it, and then like
Utah, Idaho.
yeah, one of those,
One of
yeah,
those-
one of those flyover states. Yeah, you know,
Her father was a lawyer, remember? Her
Kardashian,
father,
but OJ.
very famous.
Yes, well, he was the only one that didn't believe OJ at the end of that trial. He went in, right? He really was all behind them. And he just, you looked at all the evidence, you watched that show, The People vs. O.J. Simpson, and David Schwimmer portrayed Bob Kardashian. He's like, I just don't see who else this could have been. Like, the DNA and all that stuff.
It was amazing. It was the trial of the decade. I know that because everybody talked about it every day.
Yeah, and the century, it's still in pop culture today. I had to, or I'm married to a Brazilian woman, so she didn't know who O.J. Simpson was. And we're watching these TV shows, and they're making references to, O.J. or, the Bronco chase.
Still looking for the guy who did it.
Yeah, right. Wouldn't it be funny if, someone comes out like, oh, I did it, like, on their deathbed, and this poor guy got accused, and everyone.
Oh, look, didn't that happen in New Haven? That happened with the incredible murder in the parking garage, where years later the DNA got proved, and it was a fellow who had moved to Vermont and had serious mental issues, and it was him, and they locked him up for it. But for years they had been blaming some other people. I'm not going to repeat the name because they suffered enough just by being associated with the name. So that happened years later. DNA tests have changed so much since they were invented that nowadays they can prove murder cases that they couldn't prove 30 years ago, and they do it regularly. They regularly review them with new DNA methods, and they catch people who've been out for 20 years.
I mean, this goes back to one of the reasons why I enjoy criminal defense too, and we've been picking up a little bit more in our office. Just because, like you said, there's people that are out there that are innocent and are locked up, and vice versa. There's people that are out there that are probably not innocent and are out on the streets because they could make a bond.
They make a bond, and now they can't get a trial because there's a shortage and COVID and all that, and they're causing more trouble. Oh, that's a good question. Let me ask you. Have you seen any cases where people were innocent and still forced to go through trials and jail, stuff like that?
Trial, no. Jail, no. Take a deal on a program, yes.
So time and time again, I feel that people are taking these deals and, going into an accelerated rehabilitation program or a family violence program just to get it over with. I think the people that are really innocent and almost become a victim to themselves because they would rather take a deal and get it over with than go through the process of trying to prove that innocence. And I do have a client currently. Case is still pending, so I can't talk too much about it, but it's very obvious from even the police report. The whole way through, we both open eyes. We're looking at this like, wow, this client had told us exactly everything that he said is verbatim of what the police said. And you don't always find that. And it was really crazy to see. And it goes back to also, being a woman. I see the different sides of it where other women putting like the blame on men in the criminal world is huge. We always take the woman's side of it. And I see it as an issue, but there always has to be someone to blame, and it tends to be the man that's blamed in the situation.
You stimulated a question that I just have to ask.
Yeah.
When there's a case where you can see that the person is almost definitely innocent, let's say, and that sounds like maybe a case. We're talking about hypothetical cases now. That's safer for everybody. All right. So hypothetically, you have a case going where you see the person is almost definitely innocent. Is there a motion to dismiss that you can just file with your evidence and go straight to the judge? I don't mean ex parte. You file the motion. You go in. There's a court hearing set up. You go into the judge and say, Your Honor, this case should be thrown out immediately. This person should not be going through this 5, 10, 15 times to court stuff. Can you throw it out now? And the prosecutor gets to say, Your Honor, we'd like to keep it alive a little bit longer. Is there a motion to dismiss like that? Have you seen one?
We haven't done that yet because we found you get more flies with honey than with vinegar sometimes,
Yep.
and it digs the prosecutors in, once you file motions like that. But
The prosecutors, at the end of the day, are our friends. We want to be able to negotiate with them to the best of our ability to, keep everyone happy in the situation. But it goes back to what I was mentioning before. We advise our clients, we understand their position, and they go and take these deals because that almost is the happy medium to it all. And instead of, going in guns blazing and being more argumentative and saying, how dare you do this, sometimes that's the right tactic, but not always.
And rarely, it's really
Yeah.
that clear. And don't forget, that firm's about 100 years old, so if they haven't done it too much recently, then that's relevant too. But and the truth is, you see almost no cases like that. But if you do see a case like that, and I worked in your firm, I know this much for sure. If they did see a case like that where they had the evidence nailed, let's say there was a tape recorder or there was DNA from somebody else, then they would go to the prosecutor and they would show the prosecutor, look, this is clearly, and almost every prosecutor I know would say, I don't want to be pushing this case either because it stinks. It's not the kind of thing I want justice for because I'm hurting an innocent victim. Also, we'll let the case out now. We'll dismiss it.
Yeah, I say this. If you can show the prosecutor evidence beforehand in anything that's not a domestic violence case, they're honest people. They want to do justice. I have not met, at least me personally, I've not met a bad prosecutor. I don't know.
That's a perfect answer.
Yeah,
No,
I've not met a
it's
bad.
true.
They are out for justice. Now, I do want to talk about domestic situations specifically, however, which I think is tough. Because so we'll talk in terms of this case without mentioning any names. The client gets the police called on him by girl living with him. And the police officer, throughout the report, does not believe a word that this woman is saying about what's going on. There's a 911 recording where she's making claims that the 911 operator goes out of their way to say, I hear a person saying, hey, calm down, not threatening and all that stuff. And at the end of the day, the client still gets arrested. Why? Because it's safer in today's world for a cop to arrest someone because there's probable cause. Probable cause is a very low standard. Victim says, this guy is threatening me. It's easier to let the courts work it out, basically.
And sometimes even if it's something where we could even get dismissed at this stage, it could be too late on other matters. For instance, this case, there is a possibility of violation of probation, and just alone with the arrest, that could cause issues for him without even having a conviction under his belt.
Yeah. So violation of probation. So that's something we should talk about because we don't talk about criminal stuff a lot on this, on this show. But it's important for people to know. Once you're on probation, they no longer have to prove you guilty beyond a reasonable doubt to send you to jail on the underlying probation charge. It's just more likely than not. And every single one of these says no new arrests. So if you get arrested, even if you're innocent, they could theoretically send you to jail for the amount of time you have hanging over your head. And a lot of folks don't realize that, and it's important. So when you're on probation, you gotta be in best behavior.
And even if you are, under these circumstances, this is kind of where you see, you could only do so much and the innocent still might end up locked up.
It becomes guilty before proven innocent. Remember, innocent until proven guilty? Now it's guilty until proven innocent because that probation's on your head.
Right. And now, so this is going to air after I go to court on Monday, so I could tell you exactly what our strategy is going to be. I'm going in like a bull in a china shop. It's really Taylor's case, but I'm offended by this, and so I'm going to go try and, do my bull in a china shop routine and see if it works. And if it doesn't, then I say, you know what, I'm sorry, it's not really my case. I'm covering for Taylor. Can we just get a date like in 2 days and she'll come and handle it?
And we do have these strategies. I mean, the reason why this client had hired us in the first place was because he wanted a female attorney. I think there's different, working together is very useful in our office alone. A lot of people don't realize that sometimes a male figure versus a female figure is different. And, you know, at the end of the day, we have these strategies to approach, you know, different prosecutors, different judges even. And, you know, he's been around for a little longer, so he is more familiarized. He is more, I don't want to say like outgoing in terms of maybe pushing a little harder of, you know, fighting that fight. And that's why, you know, we've spoke with the client, and, you know, I could definitely do it as well, but we chose to send him on this one.
Yeah.
And there's another case that I have to take over, so.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I lost my train of thought. Sorry.
It's all good. We're really rolling.
Yes.
It's amazing. It's back to the class actions for insurance companies. So when your car is damaged, it's very important to get your registration together. You got to get your insurance card together. You got to notify your insurance through your lawyer. And you also have to get title, because you're going to have to give it to them, and they're only going to give you a rental for a certain amount of days. Now, I'm only speaking about the cases that have very clear liability. For instance, a rear end accident, or an accident that got hit in front of the proverbial 20 nuns on a corner, so you got the best witnesses. But the truth is that there's certain things that have to be prepared right away so that you don't suffer too long without a car and stuff like that. If the insurance company isn't answering the phone, if they're not taking calls, stuff like that, then you can go to the insurance commissioner, which also has power to look at class actions and things like that, because they can hire the Attorney General of the state of Connecticut to bring cases. It doesn't happen too much, but sometimes you really need it. Those are alternate remedies. So just something to remember: get your title, your registration, and your even bill of sale. Anything you can get to prove that it's your vehicle. Get it out of storage before the bill gets up too high, if you can, and find a place you can store it without spending a fortune, if those situations arise in that fashion.
You know, so something we're glossing over here too is we're talking about mostly plaintiffs, but defendants also could have a bad faith claim against their own carrier. So when you get an insurance policy, they have two main duties to you: a duty to defend and a duty to pay up to whatever the limits of their policy are. Now, if they don't settle within the policy limits, and they could have, and you get hit for an overage at trial, you have a cause of action, a direct cause of action against your insurance carrier. Now, additionally, in the state of Connecticut, after 30 days, right, the rights of like the defendant, so the person that got hit with the overage, automatically get subrogated, which is a fancy way of saying the plaintiff can bring the suit on their own. So as a defendant, if you're being sued and you have a policy that's small, let's say $25,000 policy, but you own a house for whatever reason, you don't have enough insurance, and they're not settling the case, you may want to contact a private attorney to help represent you, or at least deal with an insurance company, so that if it becomes an issue later on, you've got someone in your corner. And that's important because, a lot of these bad faith claims we're talking about from the plaintiff side, but most of the big ones have been from the defense side. The defendant has gotten hit for overages, and, they were able to successfully bring claims against their insurance carrier for, failing to defend them properly. So that's something to consider. If you're a defendant and you get hit for more than the policy on your case, contact an attorney. Contact an attorney. You may have a claim against your insurance carrier.
And there's free attorneys too, by the way. I don't know exactly all the limits of free attorneys, but I know they're around. I know that the courts have a policy somewhat of having lists on the wall sometimes of times that you can go and get a free consultation. I know that the Connecticut Civil Liberties Union has free lawyers who help mostly with civil liberties in the constitutional sense. But I'm sure they're flexible. I know the National Lawyers Guild has some free lawyers. And also there's clinics, like Yale Law School has a clinic, Quinnipiac, I think, has a clinic, and UConn. So there's lots of places you can find an entree. Sometimes when my people can't get any help whatsoever, I tell them to contact the Harvard Law Clinic, which is a big clinic up in Boston. And they've helped a few of my people. And NYU in New York has a big clinic too. Because sometimes you just need somebody to help you out. And it's amazing how much, even though the students who are in those clinics may be sort of new, the professors who run those clinics are real smart. So
and I could speak on that. I did 2 clinics in school. I did the corporate clinic and I did the criminal defense clinic because that's what was offered. And those teachers, those professors, they were my letter of recommendations. They were great. I just can't say anything. I've learned the most through those clinics, and that's actually kind of what landed me in getting involved in more criminal defense at our office. You know, he was taking on a couple of cases here and there. Were obviously mostly personal injury, and these clinics are really helpful. So I agree with the recommendation of using those if needed.
And then when talking about criminal defense here too, don't think we, let me think of how to phrase this. Our job is not to prove you innocent, right? Our role is to make the state prove you guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. So, you know, just because there's a great lawyer down in Florida, he's got this advertisement, just because you did it doesn't mean you're guilty, right? You know, you're only guilty if the state can prove beyond a reasonable doubt. Consult with an attorney if you get into criminal trouble. No criminal defense attorney that I know is going to judge. You know, I mean, actually, there's a few crimes that I judge on, but you know, you're probably not walking into my office with those. You know, but it doesn't hurt to call and get a consult.
And there is attorney-client privilege. A lot of people forget. You know, if I am sitting in a room and you're telling me something, you know, if we get into detail and further information that, you know, I can't go and say something to anyone other than, you know, maybe Frank, my associate.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, you can come and you tell your lawyer the truth. That's the simplest answer. Always tell your lawyer the truth, because we just need to know what we're dealing with.
And that's in personal injury as well. I mean, we hear time and time again. You maybe want to tell us, you know, where the liability went wrong. Instead of telling us that, you're telling us a story that you know isn't true, and that doesn't help us in the end, especially when we're going to prepare ourselves against these insurance companies or against a prosecutor. You just really need to always tell the truth.
Yes, and in personal injury in particular, let me say this. We see this all the time. People have multiple car accidents, use multiple lawyers, and go to multiple different doctors and not tell anyone about the others. Now, I have no way of discovering this.
Big mistake.
This is the dumbest thing you could do as a client.
Oh, God.
You know, like the dumbest thing, it's all, because the insurance companies have a database.
Yes.
Every time you make a claim, they know about it, right?
So
and they're going to know.
I put an emphasis on that. We don't know. We don't have a database where we could find all these other accidents. We have your word against ours, and then when we go to fight your claim and the insurance company already has a step against us and they said, well, what about this accident where you had the same injuries, then it becomes an issue on our end because we weren't prepared for it. So you're only hurting yourself in the end.
And the doctors are writing reports that are no longer believable if you're treating like I had a case, I guess I should change the facts so we can't say who it is. But basically treating side by side, me as the lawyer on one case, going to a chiropractor, another attorney on the other side, on the other case, going to a different chiropractor. Mm-hmm. Same injuries, same time frame. Neither doctor knew about the other. Neither lawyer knew about the other. At the deposition, it comes up. Then what do you do? You know, right? Like then the case is just shot at that point because the doctor now, his reports or her reports are worthless because the client wasn't honest. The client was honest. If you had 2 accidents, how could you fairly attribute, all of your problems, as they presumably will have done, to accident A?
You know what those clients do when they're doing multiple cases and they're all back-assward, right? What they're doing is they're like stepping up to hit the ball, except instead of facing the pitcher, they're facing the catcher. So they're getting hit from behind. They can't see anything. It's all blind stuff. You don't do that. It's like going out and playing basketball and shooting the basket in the other guy's hoop. You don't do it. You got a case, stick with the lawyer, make common sense, and delineate your injuries honestly. You just can't have multiple cases at the same time without telling the other doctor.
Yeah, I just don't understand the logic behind it either.
We're on your side.
Right, like we're trying to help you out, and like if you trusted the first lawyer for the first case, why are you going to someone else anyways? Other than you must not be aware that the insurance company is going to find out about it.
Just so silly.
It's just silly. Yes, that's the long and the short of it. If you take nothing else away from what you hear today, if you're in multiple accidents, be honest with your lawyer. Be honest with your doctor, and make sure to tell the doctor, any doctor you see, how he got hurt. Otherwise, they're gonna guess.
It's like the kid with the chocolate all over his mouth, lips, saying, "I didn't eat that cookie."
Yeah.
You're just putting it right all over yourself.
Yeah, especially in the hospital. Especially in the hospital. If you go into the hospital not by ambulance, right, and you don't specifically say, I was in a car accident or I fell down or whatever, they're going to write their notes up however they're going to write their notes up. And
they're going to write it up anyway. That's why we use my chart to fix what the emergency room doctors write wrong.
Yeah.
Right? We've seen this our whole lives too.
They're typing. You see them in your room. There's always a paragraph of something written. Even if you have a splinter, you still have a paragraph of something that the doctor had said or a nurse or someone that had came in. And it is really important, like he mentioned, to let them know that you were in a car accident or had a slip and fall, because that becomes the ultimate liability point, and that becomes a huge part in making money in the end.
Right.
You're talking here to
yourself.
a guy with a lot of experience, a lawyer with a couple of years experience, and you can see how much they've been burnt by people who just didn't do it right. You can hear the sincerity in their voices, and you can see it. And they're just shocked at these reports they get back from emergency rooms where people don't even represent themselves decently. I'm very touched by this, but I've gone on long enough.
What he said about, if you were with another lawyer and then you come see us, clients want to, think that, we are happy that you came with us. Absolutely, we're happy. But if you had a great lawyer before, by no means do we say, oh, you should come to us because of that. Like, we would like you to, get your time,
if it works,
heard at the right place.
If it's not broken, don't fool around with it.
Yeah, so here's my policy, just so people know. You call my office and you tell me you have another lawyer, unless they've done something egregious, I won't take the case from them. I don't. That's my policy, because why?
That's not everyone's policy. I've worked at a couple places throughout the years, and I really do find that Cirillo Law Firm is really good about that. We work together. We rather work with others, even with both of us. Me being a newly admitted attorney here, I'm getting a lot of experience, and I'm grateful for that, because there's not many places that you could go to and get that experience. You're usually a behind-the-scenes person for a really long time, and here I am. It's only been a couple of months of practicing in Connecticut, and I have my own clientele and everything. It's nice.
New Haven just was. They both practice in New Haven, and they're both certainly New Haven County people, 100%. But I was thinking that New Haven has been appointed like one of the greatest tourist places in the world, and everybody in New Haven who hears that goes, "What? What?" They're just stunned, and that's impossible. But then I tell them, well, go check out Waterbury or Meriden, or go check out Bangor, Maine, and all of a sudden New Haven gets interesting. Right? We got great theaters, great great music scenes, great shopping, great phenomenal museums, and we got sports. You can go watch basketball games for free at Yale or Cross or Hill House. Phenomenal. Anyway, but I'm not saying it's better than other places, but most of those cities that I do know, New Haven's better than. And it's close to New York, which we like too. But you also have a legal community that's really pretty awesome. And the lawyers that you work with every day are super, super famous and super amazing. And because Yale and UConn are here, we get a lot of people who've written books and stuff like that. So you get to learn from each other. And I think you're very lucky to be coming up in that environment.
I think New Haven has we are a great community, I will say that. Even when I go in and I don't know an attorney or a prosecutor or even clients, I'm meeting new people every day, and everyone's, respectful. They don't say because you're new, you're a nobody. They give me more credit. They think highly of it. They think it's great that I'm starting out, young and
The judges will help you. You've met the nicest judges you're ever going to meet anywhere.
Oh, yeah, they're
Believe
all
me.
nice. And we also have great pizza in New Haven.
Pizza, the pizza.
Coming from, I went to Merrimack College in Massachusetts. That was my undergrad, and I went to Roger Williams in Rhode Island for law school. And the number one thing when I say New Haven, they say pizza.
That's right.
If I have another slice of pizza, it's going to make me puke. I have a feeling, though, that we have too much New Haven. I need a little break.
The guy works basically on Orange Street and State Street, Worcester Street. He works there, all right? He can reach out his window and grab a Sally's pizza, all right? That's a little bit of a stretch.
And I don't know if my fatness is showing, but I've eaten quite a bit of pizza.
Lunches are great and close by.
Everybody talks about Worcester Street, but State Street is just as good.
Modern?
Modern, of course, Modern actually beats Pepe's in local polls. All right,
yeah, I think modern.
Right?
Well, that's an opinion.
Yeah, but it's very, very common. I did a TV show on this, and let me tell you, I asked a lot of people from out of town. Modern wins. Okay?
Well, I also
Bar,
find that
Bar's good too. That's different
the
pizza.
burntness that Sally's
Char.
the charred. A lot of out-of-staters don't like that because they're not used to it.
But they don't know why it's done. It's done
exactly.
on purpose because the rest of the pizza is cooked through to a better degree.
Yes. And so I think Modern has more of that more basic styled pizza that's obviously a step up.
He also has some flavor combination
Yeah.
that makes people like it a little better. And it wasn't just my TV show that also proved that. It was also Yale. When I told the owner of Modern, I said, Billy, because he's a buster just like we are, breaks everything, But anyway, and he's friendly. But when I said, Billy, you won on my TV show. You won the best pizza in New Haven. He said, gee, thanks, Irv. I want you to know we also won the Yale study. So I go, Yale did a study? So I Googled it, and there was 2006 in the Yale Daily News. Read the article about who makes the best pizza in New Haven.
It was Modern?
It was Modern beat, Modern won, and they won my show too. So we know what we're talking
I have
about.
a great story about Modern, but I don't know if I could tell it because it's a different lawyer story. Nothing bad, but it's a funny one. For next time, I'll ask if I could tell it. But in terms of, we've got 5 minutes left here.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about theater in New Haven. We got the Schubert. We got, what is it? Is that called the Palace across from the Schubert?
Yes, the Palace.
Yeah, so there's a lot of good, like Broadway in the area. Next week, I think, is Gloria Estefan's musicals coming to town.
I don't know, but I just know
On
New
Your
Haven has
Feet.
more music than you can count.
Are you a theater fan?
I saw a lot of plays, but I don't go much anymore.
I was thinking of going today, but now that you told me Trump might be getting arrested, there might be riots in New York.
Tuesday. He won't be arrested till Tuesday, he said.
I know, but there might be riots. You never know. I'm gonna take
You want to check out a riot?
Yeah, well, actually,
Stay away, there's a riot going on.
Big Broadway guy over here.
Yeah, big Broadway nerd. So if you ever want to chat, Broadway or Disney, those are my two big things.
The Schubert's pretty good.
The Schubert's great.
Schubert's good. The theaters at Broadway now are so fabulous. They're so ornate, they're so fancy that I give them credit. But the Schubert is also, you can see the Temptations there, even though it's a new imitation of Temptations. They're fabulous. Who can sing like them? They can. They can do it. And you can see everything from Phantom of the Opera to Les Mis. It's really great.
This goes to say, lawyers are people. We connect on many levels.
Object.
But we connect on many levels, and I think that kind of wraps it all in. You know, we like pizza, we like
Broadway.
we like everything. We could give you advice on things other than the law.
Yeah, see, if we're never going to charge you for theater.
And there's the new place in
I'm
New
a
Haven,
foodie.
Zanelli's, which I haven't tried.
Love it.
Zanelli's is a completely different than Modern and Pepe's and Bar. But on the other hand, it's so highly rated nationally now
Love
that
them.
you might want to read about it. Zanelli's.
It's wood fire pizza. It's got a fluffier crust. They also have some pasta dishes as well, but I must say, like, the service there is phenomenal. They came and just they knew it was going to be a competition being on Worcester there, and they've done it. I'm telling you, it's different, but it's awesome.
And they're nationally ranked like that, and there's no way this small little company could have fixed a national poll. So they really must be legitimate.
No, I've
Google
been there a couple times. It's really good. You should definitely go.
Respect.
The only other thing I have to add to this is theater related again. If you mentioned Phantom of the Opera, they're closing April 18th, I believe, in New York. So if you want to see Phantom of the Opera, the time to go is now. It's a great show. Absolutely my favorite. Well,
And you will see him there, I'm sure.
you may see me there today, actually, if I'm not afraid of the riots. Sunset Boulevard's actually my favorite, but that's not on Broadway anymore.
There's not going to be a riot in Manhattan because Trump's arrested. Manhattan would have a prayer service. They'd be so happy he got arrested.
No, but they'll be
But
out of town.
maybe
Out of town. nuts coming in.
They'll riot wherever they are. They're not
No,
going to.
they're going to come to New York.
They are. You know, you may have a point here. Let's
Yeah,
go.
Let's
go.
The other thing, if you're interested in the law and theater, To Kill a Mockingbird's coming to the Bushnell in a couple months. And I believe tickets went on sale yesterday. You may want to consider it. It's a book you should have read in high school. But if you didn't read the book, it's a great play. It stars John Boy from the Waltons. I forget what his real name is.
Richard Thomas.
I think that's it. You know,
Maybe.
so he plays Atticus Finch. And it's actually like a lot of the cast of Ozark. Calpurnia is played by the FBI agent that's in charge. Great show. It teaches you a lot of interesting legal tricks.
We should make a show with motions to dismiss and stuff like that, and DNA coming in. We should make a show. The Innocence Project.
The Innocence Project. Yeah, we should do something like that. We'll
Let us know.
yeah, whenever you guys.
The trial of Donald Trump. I'll be the prosecutor.
Listen, if Donald Trump really gets arrested on Tuesday, we're coming back in next Saturday, filming a show just on that.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes. Other than that, thank you for having us on your show.
Yes,
we really
thank
appreciate
you.
it. I'm sure Taylor appreciates getting the exposure.
I do. I'm happy to be here.
Well,
nice talking to you. You're a great
I'm
guy.
so honored to be with these people.
Yeah, and we're just so you know, we're in no way affiliated with Attorney Pinsky, other than we're friends with him. So
we're not partners,
we're not partners or anything like that. We just like each other, and we're trying to do better for the community. That's the point of this. And education goes a long way to making better law.
Do you have a 1-800 number too?
No, we don't have
What's your phone number again?
203-787-3558.
Oh, thank you very
Yeah.
much.
And if you have other topics, let us know. I know Irving is always open to whatever.
Do you ever do commercial law? You said you were in a commercial clinic.
So I did a corporate clinic.
Corporate,
I opened up an LLC for a couple of clients.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've been doing
It
some
was choosing.
commercial lit recently. I did the defense case over the summer. I'm a victim of theft now.
He likes going to court.
I like
I
going
do
to
too.
court. I really enjoy commercial lit. I was an accounting major, so it's fun for me. I'm a nerd. Like I'm sitting home, working numbers on this case on the weekend because it's fun for me.
And someone that's not a numbers person, he will then present me with it and say what's wrong. And it's kind of nice to have different perspectives.
Totally.
I was a criminal justice sociology background, so it's nice to see all the different perspectives on the cases.
Yeah, and if you do have a commercial lit case, I found most people on the other side who are aware of us think of us only as personal injury lawyers. Figure we don't know what we're doing if we're involved in a commercial lit case, so they're not as prepared. That's they underestimate. They underestimate outside of personal injury.
That's good to know. You know, social workers, New Haven has really good social workers. I've been working with the people for many, many years, homeless. You know, I do lots of things. I don't want to virtue signal, but I'm telling you right now, I've worked with a bunch of these social workers, and they have clients who are so hard to help and handle.
Yeah.
But I've met some really, really good people who do that in New Haven. So, a shout out to them because we've really seen them help nice people. I know.
So that is, we got to cut it off there. That's our hour.
Thank you.
But the moral of the story, if you have a question, call a lawyer. You know, any personal injury lawyer will talk to you for free, I would think.
Protect yourself. Make a
Protect
call.
yourself.
Maybe you
We're
can
here
get
to
some
help.
help.
Yes, that's our
Okay.
goal.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you have any news stories, let me know because I'm interested in doing more news shows. And this is legal news, but I can do other news shows too. But mostly legal. But if you have any news stories, let me know. Thank you very much.